So I'm here with Jake in England, and we're here to talk about. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Ireland Springboks, and I could talk about it all day, but I wanted to talk about the other big series coming up, and that's obviously England's trip to New Zealand, the debut of Scott Robertson as the coach, and I think just to even get started, Jake, how about we go back to 2019?
Yes.
Not the final. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about one of the most infamous pictures to ever be shown, and hopefully I can get the photo up here in the edit. And that's Owen Farrell, your captain at the time, staring down the All Blacks haka. I mean, you were watching the game, obviously, right?
Oh yeah, I was watching that game.
How did that, like? Because for the rest of us, we kind of thought, man, what a smug bugger that guy was. Did you know at that moment, like, hey, we're gonna win this game, or was it just kind of like, whoa? How was your feeling about that?
Oh, at that moment, it's just like, you better win this game, or that is becoming a meme forever. But you just think that either that England are going to like turn up and be on it, or this is going to be just made fun of forever. But I think that picture of my lock screen for a good year or two. It was brilliant.
It was definitely one of those moments that will go down, and it still became a meme regardless of what happened. Obviously, you beat the All Blacks. This was the consensus team. We won't talk about the final. And then you get back. Usually the year after a Rugby World Cup is usually a rebuilding year. And you kind of start noticing, unfortunately, some dips in the head coaching there with Eddie Jones, the Australian Eddie Jones. And eventually he parts ways with the team. You bring in Steve Borthwick. Little shaky at first, leading into the 2023 World Cup. I mean, there was the game at Twickenham between the All Blacks and Springboks, very well attended, and then you guys played a game at Twickenham, and everybody was kind of not anticipating a deep run by you in the 2023 World Cup, and you still, once again, you made the semifinal, regardless.
Yeah.
So we make it through the Six Nations, and I know it probably wasn't the Six Nations that you wanted, obviously, but you did keep the winner from getting the Grand Slam. You did beat Ireland. I'm sure that was a really good feeling, right?
Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah.
So as I've had a Welsh guy on here, I've had Irish guys on here. I've never had an Englishman, and it's always been like everyone hates England as far as rugby goes. Who does England consider?
Take the rugby out of it if you want, really.
Yeah, well, who does England consider its greatest rival in this game?
In the game of rugby, it's France, easily.
Is it France?
France are the main rivals.
Okay.
And even historically, I'd say Wales, because they were the strongest team usually historically after France and England. And even the last 10 years or 15 years, people forget how good Wales have been. But France are our main rivals, I would say.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, Wales also made the semifinal in 2019. And Alan Wynne-Jones, obviously they're in a completely different place now than they were back then, as they get to go take on the Wallabies, who are also in a much lower place, not even making it out of the pool. That's how bad the Wallabies did. So you go through the Six Nations, you get the victory over Ireland. You've already had a warm-up game against your former head coach, Eddie Jones, in Japan. And I mean, like, you guys absolutely demolish the Japanese. Obviously losing some key guys. Owen Farrell has taken a contract in France. Courtney Laws has also taken a contract in France. So you're missing two key pieces of this team.
Courtney Laws had retired, though.
He has retired? Okay, I apologize. I thought he had taken... No, he has retired. Yeah. And you're missing two key elements to this team. But in their place, you get to see some young guns, and we get to see Marcus Smith really start to hopefully take hold of that number 10 jersey. How are you feeling going into this series?
I I think there's lots of points, by the way, to pick up on. So like that, just before the World Cup, that warm-up versus Fiji, there was like 50,000 people there. It was really low expectations, but we did still make the semi-final, and 1 point lost to South Africa with the last-minute penalty, and we laughing. But I think Borthwick didn't have all the coaching staff he wanted and all the sort of 100% of the players he wanted. So this Six Nations is the first time he's had that opportunity to be fully Steve Borthwick's England, really. And it definitely started off slow. And people, you say, I'd be disappointed at Six Nations. No one was expecting England to win that. They just wanted performances. And after the first three, and that Scotland one in particular, another loss to Scotland, it was the mood was down. And then those performances for Ireland and France are just transformed the mood. There were great performances. Even though we lost against France, it was just we were competing well against a sort of established team. So there's a lot of optimism going into this series, and I do think England they've been under Borthwick for a year and a half, whereas New Zealand only been with Razor for a week or two, really. So or a bit longer. I think England should be disappointed if they can't get one win.
I'm in total agreement. I obviously, everybody can see I'm wearing a Crusaders jersey. I'm not really a Crusaders fan. I just felt like wearing something New Zealand. I got the flag in the background here, obviously. But yeah. I've been one of the few people who's a massive Southern Hemisphere. I'm a huge Springboks fan, but I'm saying the same thing. England should be able to at least pull out a win in one of these games. And I'm thinking this weekend at Forsyth Bar under the Glass Dome, this is the perfect opportunity for it. The squads have already been named for both teams. Are there any guys that maybe we don't like? Obviously, we all know who Marcus Smith is. We know some of the bigger names. Are there any of these lesser known guys that you think, hey, could have the potential to be X factors in this game?
Well, obviously, it's just a 2-game series. So this first game is huge because whoever loses, there's so much pressure on the second game in Eden Park. Yeah. But about players-wise, it's quite difficult. Off the bench, I know we've got Marcus Smith. Obviously, Owen Farrell is sort of moved away and George Ford is injured. So we've got Marcus Smith. He's going to be very entertaining, hopefully, for Harlequins this year. He has been fantastic. But we've also got Finn Smith, who's 21 years old, if people don't know him, playing for Northampton. They've won the Premiership, semi-final in the Champions Cup, and he's kind of like a young George Ford. So I like to see him off the bench a lot. But also, I think players who are kind of unproven are the wings, but there's definitely a lot of excitement. Emmanuel Faye-Waboso, ex-the Chiefs, has been incredible. He literally, the most similar players to him in the world is Mark Tlair. So it's quite interesting that they're going to go
that is going to be a key matchup in the game. And I agree. And we've brought it up in private conversations outside of that. Is where I see. I also see a gap at lock. You do have Scott Barrett. I know you're a big Scott Barrett guy. And Patrick Tuipulotu. Patrick Tuipulotu has continued to unimpress at test time. He doesn't have that many caps. But I do think the interesting thing is Marcus Smith, Damian McKenzie. Those are both gentlemen that have done really well at club level and have both really failed to live up to that expectation at 10.
They've had very, very similar sort of, sort of pathways where they're very entertaining, but there are sort of more established 10s ahead of them. So it's going to be really exciting to see them go up against each other.
I agree. With this game, obviously, it's going to be, I think, a true kind of barometer of where English rugby is now. As much as I will talk smack about the Irish and everyone else, I think English rugby definitely has the potential to pull something together by 2027 and make another considerably deep run at the World Cup. With that being said, there's obviously been issues with rugby union completely around the world. The Premiership, I know you're a big fan. They're not without those issues. They've lost a couple of teams in recent years. But you were at you've been out to the games. Do you feel like it's coming back? Do you feel like the fever is coming back in England, or do you feel like it's still kind of short there a bit?
The thing that should bring back some fever in England is a World Cup victory. Okay, that's what really ultimately I think. When England does well and is consistent, that will bring in more fans, sadly, than the Premiership being all exciting, because England just gets the attention. And if they win a couple of Six Nations, that will do more than a good Premiership season, which is why it's kind of difficult with these French laws where you can't have players who are overseas be picked for England, because we're losing likes of Owen Farrell and Courtney Lawes kind of, but Joe Marchant, who played a lot last year, Henry Arundel, and then Jack Willis, who's arguably one of the best forwards of the season. But I went to the final, as you said, and it was the first time the Premiership final had been sold out 82k in like 10 years, and it was incredible. Like, it's one of the best days out in rugby. The Northampton fans were brilliant, and they were loud. They were proper loud. So there definitely is a fever within the rugby community. It's just on England rugby and the Premiership to sort of promote that to the non-rugby majority sort of sports fans in England.
So you talk about that. You posted footage of it. It was really great to kind of see the game day atmosphere there. With that kind of being around set, what about the general? Obviously, England is a football country, and for my non-European soccer, I hate that word. It's a football country.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's like comparing when I ask my German colleagues how much bigger is football over ice hockey, and they're like, it's like 10-1.
Yeah.
What would you say? Would you say that's a fair ratio for football versus rugby? Is it like a 10-1 fan base, or is it not quite that big of a gap?
It's really difficult. It's really difficult. Like, for example, the Euro's on right now, and when England's playing, the roads are dead quiet. Like, you can't hear any cars going past because everyone's watching it. But it's quite difficult, because if you look at the Six Nations, they do get in the millions of viewers, England games, and so do England football. So it's kind of maybe like, I don't know, 50, I'm guessing here, 15 million football viewers, 5 million, 3 million Six Nation ones maybe. But when you go to the club level, the Premier League is there and the Premiership is, down off the screen. That's where the big difference is, and that's why so many clubs are not making money.
Because they're willing to watch at test time, but not willing to watch at club level. And I think that's something that is kind of everywhere now. It's kind of
sadly. But if you talk about as we said, the Euros, the football's on now. I've been talking to people about, because I'm a big rugby fan, about the England to play New Zealand, and they've just gone, "Are we?" And no, because they don't know that it's on, which is a real shame. And not because they didn't want to watch it, but just it's not really been shown much outside. Because we know about it, but the marketing, I think, especially by Sky, who aren't usual rugby sort of shows, they usually show rugby league, haven't really marketed it very well, which is a shame.
So when it comes to being able to watch domestic Premiership club level rugby in your country, do you have to pay? Like, is it like a cable channel to watch it, or is it shown on like public television? Or I don't know how it works in the UK.
It's done kind of. It gets a bit of stick because it is a pay service. It's TNT Sports. However, I've sort of been keeping track since the Six Nations, which is obviously on free to air on ITV and BBC, and almost every weekend since the Six Nations finished till like the Champions Cup final, Premiership final, there has been a game on ITV, whether that be Champions Cup or Premiership. There's usually been one on, so maybe 7 games on free to air since, and the final included. So it's a lot more than even the football. So there are good points as well. But yes, to watch all the games or most of the games, you have to subscribe to TNT Sports.
Well, I mean, to be fair, in the US, like, Major League Rugby is free to watch on TV or on an app. They do show the occasional game, but it's on like a tertiary station that nobody watches. So it could be a lot worse, but I know that television is different outside of the United States than it is in the United States. I know, like, in New Zealand, you have to pay to watch everything, and it's for me, I think it's what's hurting the game too a lot. It's that there's not a whole lot of accessibility to easily watch the games at the club level, not at the test level, but at the club level, and I think that does hurt a bit as well.
It's difficult because all the football in or 90% of it in England is behind Sky Sports or TNT as well. So it's not like people aren't used to that. It's just they're already football fans. You know, they watch the highlights. They don't even if they don't have the subscription, whereas they might not know there's highlights of rugby or just not be rugby fans. But yeah, it's so poorly marketed even to like Six Nations casual fans. But it is.
So, like, back to the Rugby World Cup, you're playing in a semi-final. It's in France, so it's not too big of a time difference. If you were the streets, like you said, was it like that same vibe? Were the streets empty because everyone was at home watching the semi-final, or was it not quite the same?
Oh, I couldn't quite remember the actual day and that, but there was definitely, you know, lots of people watching. I'm not sure it would be as big as the football on right now, but it was still a lot more than we talk about rugby than usually do. But if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, we have obviously the Super Bowl here in the U.S., and my now wife and I, we actually chose to go to the grocery store during the Super Bowl. There was no one there because everybody's at home watching the game.
Yeah.
And so I can get what you're saying about how like the streets are empty, everybody's at home or at a pub watching the game, and I know you'd wish to see that kind of fever for rugby. Like I know you wish it was just that same kind of fever, and it was like casual conversation was about the Red Roses, not the football team.
Yeah.
So
don't get me wrong, I like both, but it's just I think rugby should be, you know, on par, and it's just so not there, and it's just such a shame because the Premiership this year has been so good. It's been one of the best seasons in years. It's just and not just the closeness of teams, but the styles of rugby being played. Northampton and Harlequins in particular are just two of the most entertaining teams in rugby in general.
With that, so I wanted to ask something, and I think I've asked you this before. Eligibility rules to play for England. Do you have to play in England to play for England?
Yes, you do. You have to play in the Premiership to play for England.
Wow. So it's Ireland, New Zealand, England. I think France you have to as well.
I don't think they do actually, but I just no one leaves, so they don't have to put that rule in. But yeah.
So Wales, I think you can leave after 25 caps or something like that. Yeah. Scotland, I think you can play wherever and play for Scotland at least.
Yes.
Because Finn Russell doesn't play in Scotland. South Africa is everywhere. Argentina obviously is everywhere because they don't really have a domestic league anymore. And Australia is kind of everywhere. Although Joe Schmidt has not selected any foreign-based players for his squad. So obviously, like I said, big test this weekend. Can we get a score prediction from you, man?
Oh. I was literally about to try and pin that back up. Do you want to re-ask that question in a second and clap?
No. Just we'll leave this in, dude. It happens.
A score prediction. Oh, Jesus. I'm really nervous about this one. You know, I've thought about how the game might go. I've not actually thought about a score prediction. I think it might be lower scoring this first one. Two teams trying to sort of work each other out.
Figure out things.
Yeah, I think maybe sort of 22 to 18 or 15-ish, that sort of score line.
That's a fair, yeah, because you're playing a team that has not played since the World Cup. So
and, you know, England kicked the ball a lot, and so New Zealand's going to have to be awake to that and sort of a set piece. And hello, oh Jesus.
Well, have you noticed who they have started at 15 for the All Blacks? They did not start Beauden Barrett. Yes. They've gone with Stephen Perifetta. I think that works in your favor a bit if you're going to kick the ball. Having a guy like Beauden Barrett back there, it's a little scary to kick him the ball because, you know, he still can make things happen.
Beauden Barrett was on great form for the All Blacks last year. I know he had a bit of a shaky season with the Blues because I was watching the Super Rugby, but for the All Blacks, he was brilliant last season. So definitely glad he's not starting. But yeah, I've been looking through some of the lineups, and there's a lot of experience for England in the forwards, but the backs, it's a lot less. And even like the back three, which is Tommy Freeman, Faye Boso, and Furbank, they've got about under 20 caps combined. It's very inexperienced.
So with you saw obviously how the Springboks. No, it wasn't just because they had 15 versus 14. Set piece play. Set piece play is very important, especially in the Southern Hemisphere. And for what you're telling me, you have the guys for good set piece play with the more veteran players up front, and that's what you're going to need. You're going to need that. So
Northampton have been the best attacking team in the Premiership off set piece. They love lineouts. And there are 3 Northampton players in the back line and 1 on the bench as well. So expect some more dynamic, hopefully attacking runs from England. We saw a bit of it in Japan as well. They're trying to, as a squad, be more attacking and running with the ball, but still kicking sensibly as well. So hopefully we'll see a good mix.
I did find out today something very interesting. There is a former Red Rose on the U.S. coaching staff.
Is there?
Nick Easter is our forwards coach.
That's a pretty good appointment, though, isn't it?
Yeah, he's the.
Was it Australia who got the English coach as well? I don't know.
I don't know. I know it's Schmidt. And I think he got a Kiwi coach as well to come over with him. Who was Borthwick? All we know is Borthwick. What is his assistant coaching staff? Do you know any of those guys? Who they are?
I think Kevin Sinfield, is the skills coach, is an ex-rugby legend. And then Richard Wigglesworth is the attack coach. I can't remember who the defence coach is off the top of my head, but yes. Yeah. But Steve Wolford's all about defence as well, so he'll be pretty good at that.
Yeah, should be fine with that. Well, I got to thank you for coming on, man, for this brief chat. And
you got a score prediction?
My score prediction, I'm gonna go 24-13. I think you're gonna double them up, man. I think the All Blacks are gonna look rusty.
Hopefully.
And I think the one try that they get will not be a back. It'll be a forward that gets a try. It'll be Artie Savea at the 47th minute. He's going to get a break and run it through. I love Artie Savea. I'm not going to lie. You could probably say he's great too.
But Scott Barrett, man of the match.
Oh, no. Scott Barrett will be seeing. I'm going to break it out so everybody can get a good laugh. The only thing Scott Barrett will be seeing is one of these and being sent off. But I thank you for coming on here, man. We'll have to talk after the series is over.
Sorry,
we got the autumn
camera thing.
Yeah, no. We've got the autumn tour coming up later in the year, and I believe we get to play England in that tour. So
yes, I will try to get to it. But
yeah, at Twickenham. For all the videos you've posted, apparently South Africans have made Twickenham their third home, basically.
It is. I saw them play England there, New Zealand there, and Wales there, and they got 3 victories, resounding victories. So they love it there, and the Springbok fans love it as well.
Man, you like a good curry, you like a good beer, and it's just what it is. So thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.